Hey, come zoom right in here.
Oh, you got, I'm not bumping you up. You certainly may. So they give you your form, right?
I'm trying to see if they have form for finance.
This is Clary's Elmo.
Yeah, he's allowed.
That's right.
All right.
Where do I hit?
Hey, you're there.
I'll just sit here.
See. If you need me, you're to look at. He's supposed to be right.
He's down the hallway, him and Sue. And
You're a
Jess.
great point.
I don't know if he's on any of
You guys are
these.
great.
I'm on time,
Matt, you
Andrew.
make up. You supervise the open the finance meeting too. I never did.
Finance meeting to 1 o'clock.
Oh, five.
I don't care. She went way too long.
That's not buttercup.
All right, now that we have,
Crappy.
now that we have a quorum, I'd like to call the September Ag Planning and Tourism meeting to order.
We're back in session.
For finance. We're gonna, first motion order of business is accept the minutes from the August 31st meeting, so moved by Jay. Second by
Me.
Mr. Shaw, thank you. Any amendments? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. We're gonna skip over the budget request right now. We're gonna go to other business. That, you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself and then let us know what you got to hear for?
I would. I think it's bad now as I'm here. I try to get some recognition for the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution Committee. That will be going on, really starting next week. I think the official start of the celebration starts in 2024. So I want to thank you folks for putting me on the agenda. I want to thank St. Paul for putting me on the agenda. Appreciate it. I would like to start off with yeah, I'm the president of all was on thoughts about it.
I realize you guys are short for time, so I'll try to get this kind of over quickly. We actually began the committee back at before 1976, because one of the major events that occurred here in Washington County was the bringing through of the cannon from Fort Ticonderoga to the heights above Boston. So I became historian in 1975, and a few months later, they invited me to a meeting and said, by the way, you're in charge of taking care of these people when they come through Fort Edward in December of 1975. So we did, and we got everything lined up. Of course, in Fort Edward, it's a little bit different because there's one monument in Hudson Falls, two monuments in the town of Fort Edward. There's one in the village near the high school, and then there's a second one at Fort Miller, right near Fort. So we had to plan on 2 days to put these people up. And we did a wonderful job. And I say that because at the end of this, our local DAR recognized the organizer of this event. And the organizer came by, and I was at the meeting where he was being given this award. He says, you know, I want to tell you something. You are the only community that actually fed us real food. Any other place we went, they handed us certificates for fast food places. And we really enjoyed our stay, although it's just a night, 2 nights in Fort Edward. So we actually arranged for them to be fed at Fort Edward at the old courthouse. And then down in Fort Miller at the Reformed Church. And then also we had a Sunday morning church service, and then off they went. So that was kind of nice to know that we had done a good job and provided them with some nice hospitality. Of course, the next thing that was on our agenda, which was very big at the time, is the New York State had what they call the festival bar And it went all around the state of New York, various places stopping. How many people went to the festival barge? I just have to do this. Show of hands. 1, 2. Okay, but it was a really big thing. And what was interesting about it, as I look back and recall, is, and I'll tell you where it was, it actually pulled in where the canal department is now in Fort Edward before you go across the Route 4 bridge. It was located right down there. And the building for the canal department had not been built, so it was pretty rough in that area. The thing that was funny, as I look back, is there was no gridlock on Broadway. And I'm not sure that there were even shuttles, but somehow or another, people got in and out of that place without any big incident. And I don't believe we had a lot of law enforcement there helping facilitate the comings and goings. It was also held at Whitehall. It was actually held at Whitehall nearer to the anniversary of the 4th of July. They were, I think, the 5th and 6th of July of that year. And then later on, it came back to Fort Edward, which is rather funny because here this big, huge barge is going all over New York State. And as I recall it coming back to Fort Edward, it was actually coming back up the canal. So wherever it had been in between, I don't happen to remember. But it was, a very big event, and nice, and participation by all. One of the things that really occurred during that period of time was the fact that every town had their own celebration. And what was nice is local towns nearby would participate with these closer towns. So their parades were always a little bit bigger. One of the other things that we did, which was new at the time, is as a county, we actually had a day at the fairgrounds where we had exhibits by all the towns and people came to that. I don't remember how money was raised to do it. I know that at that time, I think the Board of Supervisors put in some funding for it. But that was a nice event. And of course, you think, well, there we've taken care of the celebration. Well, not quite. Remember, we had to have Burgoyne's invasion come in 1777. And of course, for the local historical community, we had to commemorate Jane McCrae's death in 1777 as well. And of course, there were things like in Argyle, they commemorated the situation over there with the killing of the family, which involved some of the killers and the Allen family, and that was taken care of as well. But, I think this year, this time when we go through it again, it's going to be so much different. And I think we kind of have to prepare for that. And one of the things we've been talking about amongst ourselves here is just getting together with people to kind of get their idea of what they want to do. So we want to have a committee meeting and then flush out ideas and then of course go from there. Of course, the observance in 1977 didn't totally wrap us up for our area here because in 1984, we had to have another celebration for 200 years, and that was the founding of our county. So that occurred. I think we went back to the fairgrounds, had another event over there, and I was on the committee at that time. I think there was Carol Senecal from Whitehall, Doris McEachran from Argyle, Sally Brion, myself, and I know there was a couple other people, I just don't remember. And one of our main tasks was to flush out and do the design for the logo that we use for Washington County today. So if you have some problems with that, I'll leave right now. But anyway, but that was one of our projects that came off and had a lasting impression. And one of the things, and Pat will speak to this a little bit later, but some of our colleagues and friends across the border in Warren County reached out to us because they said, you do realize you are our early history. Washington County was the early part of Warren County up until 1813. So they're looking at us, maybe we can do some things and share, and we think that's what we want to do. But I'm here with Pat. Pat's going to take over from here. And if there's some other questions of me that you want to have later, please feel free.
We talk a little bit about the makeup and what our goals are. We've only met once or twice informally, so we don't have anything flushed out. But these are some of the ideas that we have. I'd like to contact each town historian in Washington County, either by email or by letter, and Washington County Historical Society has their contact information. Secondly, we want to contact every historical organization, Washington County Example, the Old Courthouse Museum, Washington County Historical Society, the North Easton Historical Society, Jane McCray, Daughters of the American Revolution, along with historical organizations, Cambridge Historical Society, all the historical societies, bring everyone together for one meeting to sit down and talk about who wants to be on, what the objectives are for the celebration. The celebration actually is going to be from 2023 or 24 to 2033. So it's a 10-year period, which is a long period of time. So we need a number of people on the committee to serve at different times. One of the things, once we do get organized, I think we need to have some goals and objectives. One of the things that we need is a mission statement. Excuse my plagiarized this, we'll change it and put our own name in it. Our own mission statement. I think this fits very well what we want out of this committee. This came out of Vermont. Vermont 250th Anniversary Commission will inspire all Vermonters to learn from history, legacy, context of the past, and build strong Vermont communities through collaborative local and statewide initiatives that explore an inclusive history of the American Revolution. Vermont 250 will support, encourage preparation, planning, and execution programs and events that will examine the formative period of our nation and how it continues to shape our culture and values. I'd like to see something similar along that line. That's my thought, to bring Washington County together, the historical community as well as the citizens of Washington. The number of people who would participate, the fact that the celebration is 223, 233, we will have to set up terms or subcommittees that will run this. There are grants in New York State. Carrie Warner has just supported a bill she actually wrote it. Another person in the Senate, they have put together an idea for 250 state level. But there are grants in the state and national level. To do that, we will need some formal recognition from Washington County to be eligible for those programs. I further see that one of the opportunities that we will have from some of this funding is maybe to make some of what we have up here permanent. We ran the bomb trail through Washington County. There's the lots is no longer here. I can see that we end up putting together some kind of tours throughout Washington County. 30 years ago, we ended up having a preservationist in Washington County. She did several tours. I'd like to see her do that type of thing. QR codes, try to bring in some tourism into Washington County. It will be a different situation from the 200th anniversary. Technology is a major part of what goes on today, how we reach our citizens, how we reach our students, how we reach our adults. We need to have some type of situation where we have people that can run our social media, which is major at this point. Just a thought, this was presented at a meeting I was at last month with Maureen Roberts, who is the county historian for Saratoga County. She gave a statistic. The statistic was for every dollar spent by Saratoga County during the American Revolution celebration, $35 came back to the county from the money that they put out at that time. Warren County has reached out to us, the celebration, and we should go in at certain times because Warren County was part of Washington County at that time during the American Revolution. Talking to some of the historians over there, they would certainly like to be with us because, in all honesty, our history is a little better than theirs. All right. We've got Jane McCray.
Yeah, we got
We've got Jane McCray. Washington County has an outstanding overall history, which includes military, the American Revolution. We have a significant amount of history that came through, and we now have the battlefield opening up in Washington. Very well. War of 1812, Civil War, and World Wars. Our participation in the county has been significant. Industrial, political, social, and agricultural history should also be shown over 250 years. Our goal for the initial meeting is to bring together Washington County historical community, educate, inspire Washington County citizenry, and our Washington County history. My personal goal that students look back 50 years from now, remember some of the activities that went on in Washington County with excitement and inspiration. We hope that Washington County could provide a small amount of money for clerical expense. We further hope the county will recognize this initiative committee to be the Washington County 250. Thank you.
Any questions for them at this time? So you guys are just beginning to start this, but
Just beginning. And we're actually in pretty good shape. I have folks in Mohawk that are very, very into history. They have not started their process, but if we get the next year to get organized, we should be able to hit the ground running in 2000.
so when you guys have a better plan of what you need from us in regards to, dollars and cents, please come back to us again with that, and especially when you have more of an idea of what that, the first couple of years is going to look like in regards to, and we can work that into because in February, we pretty much present what we're going to do for the year in terms of our tourism and planning, correct? February, yeah. So there's going to be, if 2024 is the start, you guys can have something to us in 2023 on what you're trying to do. That way we can be on board, with our plans and being able to promote for tourism. I think this is going to be a huge opportunity throughout the entire state. And it'd be great so we can do the work with Lake George, Warren County, and Saratoga County as well. Go ahead.
Do they need something from us so they can go forward?
Yeah, do you need something fresh?
I'd like a letter saying that recognize and that would be a step in the right direction. Can start to fund that.
So, again,
Yeah, do you have a title yet of your group? I mean, so that we know who we're recognizing? A name or something, I think, for us to.
I don't know, this is not a great one when I came up with Washington County 250 transport.
That's what it's all about, but it's what.
No, I mean, we want what you want to be called, right, rather than come up with a name.
so
So just a quick suggestion, in order for us to help support you, if you're putting together a committee to do this,
Right.
it helps us to understand mechanics. All of it is, how they will. And then the county helps.
And I was thinking, putting a presentation together, specifically about the membership having an input. Are you gonna need a chair? You're gonna need a secretary, treasurer, corresponding secretary. I also believe we need someone to do the social media. So we already have historical consultant, can be on the committee, the historian considered that one of the foremost authorities on the proposal. So we've already started.
I think Laura just hit it, so if you have, a mission statement, a board of directors, and then, I'm not even worried about having like a, board chair, if you had just the committee members listed. And, and then like a description of what your focus is. I think you deliver that to us, and we can certainly recognize the group as the group that's gonna put this together.
I don't think you even necessarily need to name who the committee members are, because that makes them kind of put together. It's more how are you gonna put this committee together? Like, what are the titles of the committee? How are you gonna approve them? How are they gonna participate?
And I don't think it needs to be a large document, a couple pages at most, yeah. Right, yes.
I'm gonna ask Roger, is that sufficient for us as a county to give money to, or donation, or is it gotta be more specific, or do you have any advice on us on what they need to do for us to be able to recognize them as a valid committee? So that, because I know we can't just give out money to citizens, so I want to make sure that what we're saying is, because I totally support it, and I think that you want to write this up in such a manner that the county can accept it.
So I would recommend they get together, they have, write up, I don't want to get too crazy.
No.
It's gonna be just ephemeral, but, write up some organizational bylaws, who's going to do what, that kind of thing, establish your own thing, with the proper signatories on it, and then we can transfer money, because we can transfer money for historical celebrations. That's one of the things we can do. So, right, you just don't want, and then once the organization gels a little bit more than talking, we want to put money in Laura's budget for her to do that. She can do that, and we can also do an agreement, what are we going to get, what are they going to do, what are these things. So that's the trick, is how does the county declare victory? How do they measure success?
What's that?
Can't you just use the Washington County Historical Society and we'll do that?
Fine with me.
They've already got it all structured.
Who we all already give money to, so we used to.
Yeah, like a board chair.
So you, already got an organization you can go through that ties in the whole county.
Organized as a committee.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
And then, parts that's right, recognizing committees so that you can go fundraise. Well, the Historical Society recognized the committee, then the money to go to the Historical Society, and they've been deciding how to do it. It's what they're asked to do. So that was a pretty genius idea. That would take us out of deciding who's doing what for the Historical Society. You guys okay with doing that? It would be a shortcut. It'd be a big shortcut.
Bring it up to the board. I don't see our board have a problem with that.
It could be Mr. Hollick's working group or something. Historical Society.
Make sure it's the oldest supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there.
David,
I guess,
Bob.
do you need money for 2023? Are you looking or not till 2024?
I would like, I think, once we get the committee up. A small amount.
No, and the only reason I'm asking is, now I gotta ask Laura, is there any money in the budget for her budget that could go toward this? Now, this was where
We have a really,
2023.
like I said, for 23, in February, we pretty much established our plan for what the year is in regards to how we're gonna spend the money. Right now, we just allocate,
Right,
how much. So there's time to be, for them to do their due diligence. And, and they, like they said, they only need possibly a little bit for clerical. So, we'll
So you're comfortable with it?
yeah, I'm comfortable. I don't think we have to make it, I don't think we have to do anything today, go to have your meeting on Monday and follow back up with myself, Sam, Laura, and, we can go from there. And, but yeah, we're gonna, we'll certainly have some, like Roger said, giving money to historical purposes. So there's there's enough runway for us to be able to get to that.
Okay.
Any other questions for you guys? Thank you very much for taking the lead on this. We appreciate it.
Organize that drag can. from Ticonderoga.
You know,
Volunteer.
When I can.
when I hear drag, all I think of now is Hartford. So-
The capital D.
No, I'm boring.
Oh, okay,
Soil and water.
okay, all right.
Karina couldn't make it.
Oh, okay, all right, no problem. So do we want, okay, do we want to get right into budgeting now? Laura? There you go.
I'm ready. Page 84, we're still.
84, so.
Here, Gloria, right here, but you go. This is a hot seat.
86,
My
right?
request-
86.
Did you bring lunch?
Looks like you got some.
86?
It's-
Okay.
Okay, I have. I knew the Harvard schedule was there. Something funny too.
This'll day on this line.
Oh, I heard some, people were getting all anxious and nervous over in Greenwich the other night, all on social media. They didn't know what was going on, and then somebody got on and went, Thistle Day fireworks, they're the best around.
What night was that?
Saturday, yeah.
Purposely or?
Very big bonfire, then they took 3 loads of brush to clean out the sections in it, put that on the bonfire.
Oh, it got bigger than what was stacked up there. Oh.
You want to go ahead and take us right through?
Sure. Okay, we're requesting $214,000 this year for county appropriation. It's a $6,000 increase from last year. We currently have 5 staff members who want to maintain 5 staff members into the following year. We recently closed 4 grants through Aggie Markets. We currently have 9 grants that we're working on, and we're waiting to grants, which we probably won't find out till the end of the year. Let's see. We're going to go through some major office renovations. We housed with the USD Service Center, and we're totally restructuring inside of the office. So we had to put in some money for upgrading computers and we have to purchase cubicles and upgrade our desks and stuff to fit the format of the office. Ongoing thing through 2013.
This is an increase from us with what about? 3%?
$6,000.
That's just for salary stuff. 3.1, general, or
Just in general. Part of our salaries get reimbursed through the state ag markets programs that we work through. We get our fees through our grants, and there's several parts of funding through the state.
what the salaries go up this year?
We do 3%.
Was fine.
Yeah.
That's max. So you're pretty much flat.
Right.
Good job.
We try to keep it there.
We appreciate that. All right. Any other questions anybody has? So I don't want to, very simple. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your consideration.
You were gone. It was your time to shine.
It all is good.
It's pretty flat. Thanks, Lori.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I could have done it in front of her, but my question is, who determines the salary increase of 3%? Is that just them doing it internally or?
Yeah.
If they did an internal on the board before you viewed it. Yeah, and that's what was, they asked for, and we said, there's several of the employees that are, what would you say, Cassie, they're in high demand around the county. All the
Extremely high
counties. In
demand.
fact, we stole a few from some other counties, so we're trying to keep them. They're very good,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
The work level is, they're all busy all the time. They and I can check my board.
They actually are thinking of hiring one more person and generating it, because they generate income through these grant administrations, they may be able to hire another person and still be able to fund it, not ask for any.
Pay for it internally. They're very busy. They also benefit the towns, county, besides. they're not
Although I
just
don't think
strictly
it's negative to say, but I
agricultural.
just wondered how that would be done. We've kind of set the bar at 2.5, I thought.
Yeah, I think it was about, yeah. But we had, like I said, some of them that just completed extra.
But is that 3% also taking into account benefits? So 2.5 salary raise, 0.5% benefits, so it's,
Is that what it is?
I think so.
well, when you get into 3%, total on the increase here, I would imagine there's a blend there of what the benefit would be versus and the increase.
The difference in this is they're a contracted organization, they're not an official county organization.
So that was, yeah. And what, they're asking for a $6,000 increase. It's,
So that's,
Right.
3%. Overall.
you're right, it's a little less than 3%. Who's taking it through proper extension?
Brian. Brian could not be here today. He's in.
So we're going into planning and tourism.
So we're about appointments.
I want to discuss this with Brian.
We could probably take her right now.
Ready to get rid of the executive director.
We're going from 399 to 411 for a 3% increase over the board CC.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. There's no lot there.
Yeah, it's all good.
Target up salary increase. All right, yeah.
Don't,
Go ahead.
don't give me the detail. I don't know the detail. It's crazy.
Yeah, this looks okay.
Down. Probably they're a short person.
Revenue was 19,
So what do you want to do, Terry, planning or tourism?
whatever, what's your vote?
Planning is top sheet.
On your handout, Brian did put a little description of the draft explanation. How about that?
19.
That means we're doing planning first. Okay. We're planning first. Planning is easy, same. Haven't changed anything other than the salary increases. The only other thing that changed was budget officer, as you know, increased all the carpool expenses a little bit. But other than that, nothing's changed.
1985.
Might as well head for 85.
Yeah, well, the only other thing I would comment is on the line item 80203902, which is state aid for planning studies. That is a line item that we're gonna have to work out at the end of the year. What that is from is the LWRP grant that we got 4 years ago at this point, which is for the Fort Anne to Whitehall Trail, which is an entire other committee meeting to give you an update on. Essentially has been stalled because of CP rail. So we have sort of been rolling that amount over year to year. I don't know what that number is going to look like until we pay the invoices at the end of the year. But just so you know, that's what that revenue item is. It's grant income for that LWRP grant. So the final number will be based on whatever our final payment to Chazen is by the end of the year. And then the rest of the revenue will roll over next year.
And luckily, this is the way that it's actually supposed to be done, so you did it right. When you do grants as an add-on after the fact, so budgeting at 0 is actually the proper way, so thank you.
No problem. Did it right.
You did it right.
Okay, so Any, so expenses, I said. No questions there?
Tourism revenues on page 19 or 16.
Okay, tourism is gonna require a little bit more explanation because I did this very differently than we've done in previous years. That's correct. And what we have done in previous years is started out with a zero budget for tourism. The reason for that is we do not know what the I Love New York contribution is going to be until the end of December. So historically, we sort of put zero in there and then amended it all in like February, March. But that created a real problem because then we didn't have any operating budget in January, February. So then what we did was we voted in the county contribution to the budget in the budget year, and then amended it in the following year to add whatever the I Love New York was. Which in the past couple of years, the county contribution has been 92,000. What I did this year, because based on the state budget, I'm going to estimate that the I Love New York revenue is going to be approximately the same for next year as it was this year. I put in an estimation of that. I put in an estimation of what I think the occupancy tax revenue is going to be and the Airbnb tax collection is. So what that gives us is between all of those, again, estimates, is a total of $157,000 in anticipated revenue for tourism for 2023.
You're being modest in the op tax fund.
I'm being conservative. I have also said in the past couple of years that I believe that in order for us to be able to effectively operate and do the same kinds of things we've been doing with tourism for the past couple of years, that budget needs to stand at somewhere around 200,000. So the bottom line is, if we are looking at an approximate $200,000 budget for tourism, balanced against $157,000 in revenue, then what's going to be required from the general fund to support the budget is about $46,000, which is half of what I have asked for in the last couple of years. So what we have now is we have some banked occupancy tax revenue against future programs. We have revenue coming in for 2023 that I'm expecting will support the 2023 budget, or at least most of it, which has then allowed us to cut the request to general fund down to half, which is what I said my target was.
What do you think is a better number for us?
Oh, I know where she's going. She's perfectly fine. She wants to give 100,000 knock tax to, but I think we'll be pulling, here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have some down years without tax. So we don't want to take all the money, you know, it's 115 or 120,000, I don't want to take all of it and put it over there. If it's 100 of 120,000, then still got 20 that's sitting in that voluntary tax number for a down year to be able to. So Laura's setting up a consistent year-over-year approach, being able to pull out that tax. Yeah. If we can get an agreement with Virgo,
There'll be no county contribution.
exactly right. Yep. Because they didn't want to do it. They don't want to do it.
I've reached out to them again after the state budget passed last year and they're not responding. Essentially, they're waiting for the state to do it. I can tell you that the tourism lobbyists and advocacy organization is on the state agenda for legislative discussion again in 2023. So the state is still pursuing it. Whether they'll be successful for 2023 budget season, I don't know. But Verbo is essentially saying they're not doing anything with the state.
You got to understand, Verbo during the pandemic was purchased by Expedia Travelocity, who was the largest. It was the largest. Expedia and Travelocity are the largest bookers of accommodations across the country. So if Virgo is not entering an agreement, possibly there's lobbyists on the other side for those companies that don't want it to happen.
So here you got income from occupancy tax, budget 109,000. Year to date is 86,000, previous year was, I guess it was actually 124.
Remember, the first full year of Airbnb revenue we had was last year. There was also a pandemic when we anticipated that usage would be higher because people were traveling high density population areas. The anticipation was that it was going to probably stay level or maybe go down again for this year. I don't think by too much. So far, it appears to be about the same, possibly even.
And when she means a little bit more, not much of 1 or 2%. growth.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
it
not.
won't be.
Any other questions for revenue?
Just want to note that one of the reasons that the 2022 actual is a little inflated because it actually has some money from 2021 that some, there were some hardships by some of the places that paid late. So some of the stuff, some of the revenue that you would have achieved in 2021 actually is reflected in that 10,000. So for 9, I don't think it's off the mark because this year has some money in there that is not this year's money.
So that you're talking about the traditional motels.
Right, so
That's
some of them had some hardships and paid later than they would have normally.
But the interesting thing is, I have an example here of what might possibly be a self-sustaining program. Wow.
They could
Is that blowing your hair back, Jay?
I'm just not even contemplating how that could ever work. It's so antithetical to, municipal government and
It'll be awesome.
doesn't make any sense.
It's really close.
That's been my target.
Even if a small little county like us can show the rest of the state how it works.
How it can happen.
Expenses.
2,000, we thought this was.
And then during the 10-year celebration, 250.
Well, actually, I gotta tell you guys, before we get to the 250th anniversary, the next big nationwide thing is the 2024 solar eclipse.
It's gonna be-
It was on the
we either gotta
so I,
jettison it.
again, sort of like the whole haunted history stuff was surprising.
Right.
If you look at what happened across the country in the last solar, eclipse, you could not get a motel in the entire state of Dakota. You could not get a flight reservation. I mean, people try all over the world to go to the.
So where's the?
It's gonna hit New York, it's more western New York than us, but.
2 years.
You'll still be able to get.
So I live in New York, it's already got webinars, how to deal with this, so that's coming up.
That's right. That's right. I want to come in on 20.
Executive.
Yeah, because there's no discounts on that.
And there's no light sources, by the way. Out there on Cassie's farm.
If you want-
That's right. Only other comment, sorry, the only other comment I have on expenses is we do have 40/20, the ARPA funding for tourism. So again, as a reminder, there was a presentation to the committee on specific projects that were going to be undertaken for the amount of $225,000. I'm anticipating that we will have spent about 100,000 of that by the end of the year. And then the balance of that will be moved over into 2023 to complete those programs.
Jim's taking it for broadband. He wants it back. He's not gonna let you roll that over. He says we've been paying the broadband too much.
Just a reminder, their commitment was $200,000 a year for 3 years. So this is only the first.
This is just the identified program.
Yep. If there's a willingness for the board to participate in the presentation, you just thought this could be an appropriate place to source that.
Any other questions on expenses? We'll have more questions
When I
explain
leave the room.
when you explain how you want to spend it. all come with their pencil sharpened for their Thistle Day requests and others.
So, I mean, what will happen is if this budget is voted in, again, we've got operating budget. Once we know what the actual I Love New York number will be, which will be at the end of the year, it will require an amendment, but I don't think it's gonna be too far different from this.
Do we know how I Love New York, dictates how that money's spent? Do they do it proportionally based on the regions or?
And we've got 4 hours also.
Okay.
It is a very complicated number that no TPA in the county has, or in the state has ever been able to figure out.
Nobody's ever been able to back into the number and figure out how they got there.
In fact, I Love New York people will say they'll send 3 people that with a spreadsheet to help them figure it out.
Okay. All right. I don't have 4 hours. That's enough of an explanation, so thank you. That's right. Yeah. So,
Good word. That was not bad.
no, that was pretty easy.
Getting better over the years.
All right, any other business come before the board today? That being said, I adjourn the meeting, towards the meeting.
Adrian, finance.